Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Rob Jr. and this is my channel, Creative Rob. And today I'm going to be sharing with you a digital painting I did based on the illustration I did in Inktober. And you can actually check out that video on my playlist. It's called Inktober. And yeah, I'll leave a link in the description. So I imported this picture and lowered the opacity, and now I'm inking it out using the ink pen, the Studio ink pen. Now, to start off, you want to do this on a separate layer, not on top of your photo, right on top of your photo. Go create a new layer, call it inked layer, and it's going to be right above your original drawing. So when you're done, you can hide the original drawing and just see the ink layer like what you're seeing right now. Well, actually I still have the original drawing on. It's just a little bleached out. Alright. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I didn't like the way the hands look, so I'm erasing that part and I'm going to redraw the hands. And this is the magic of digital painting, guys. This kind of mistake is deadly in traditional art, but with digital art you have the freedom to make mistakes, try things out, try different colors, and that's what makes it a blast. So now I created a new layer. Actually what I did is I duplicated the ink layer, and so that way I have two, and now I'm adding color to the second ink layer, which is going to be called the colored layer. I'm testing out colors, I'm seeing what I like, and I'm trying to keep a similar a similar color scheme uh, with this series. Um, that Pepto-Bismol pink and turquoise are kind of the main colors in this series, so I'm sticking with it. Alright, now I'm adding a darker purple to the inside of his hands as shadows. Now right here I'm cleaning up those lines a little bit and just messing around with the color, seeing what looks good. I just created a body shadow layer. So I'm going to be using the airbrush tool, and the way the airbrush works is, at least the soft airbrush, what you're going to do is the harder you press, the thicker the line will be and darker, and the lighter you press, the more transparent and smaller it becomes, just like a real airbrush. Now, when I was younger, I worked at Six Flags and airbrush, so I have some experience with this. I airbrushed t-shirts at Six Flags and it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. It didn't pay very well, but it was a great job as far as being happy and having fun. Um, and the perks of working at Six Flags is when you're not working, you get to go to Six Flags for free and bring a friend. So that's pretty cool when you're young. So after I make these lines, these shadow lines, what I like to do is then go to the Gaussian Blur tool and blur it out just enough so that it's softer and not as harsh and blends in with the body color a little bit better. And if it still stands out too strong, I will use the lower the opacity, and that seems to help a lot. Now we're adding some shadows to the fingers. All these tiny details end up really making your artwork look so much better. Take the time to do this and think about it, and because it really adds so much to your work. So as you can see, I'm wearing a glove and it came that way. I didn't cut off the fingertips. I use it for drawing, but I did get in the middle of this, while creating this, I got an Amazon delivery for a new drawing glove, the kind that leaves your pinky and ring finger covered and the rest of your finger is not covered. So that way your palm glides across the screen and doesn't leave smudges or stick to it. This glove was extremely warm. It was a little uncomfortable sometimes. So now what I'm doing here is I'm going around the character, erasing some of the airbrush lines that um, went past the inked lines. Maybe I should have used the alpha lock on that. Sometimes you just get in the flow and you just go with it, you know. And what I like to do is I tend to zone out when I do this, and I listen to an audiobook. And right now what I'm listening to is The Dark Tower by Stephen King, and I just started book 6. And I gotta tell you, the Dark Tower series is probably the best series I've ever listened to. It's probably the best book I've ever read, quote, listened to. I would highly recommend getting it. All right, so I'm still working on the shadows here, creating new layers, seeing what looks good. Right now, let's putting in the eye shadow, which was like a blue, soft gray. Went to the Gaussian Blur, blurred it out. Now we're adding some depth to the mouth. Did the same thing there. Gaussian Blur, lower the opacity so it doesn't stand out as much. Moving on to the tongue, adding some depth to the tongue, some shadow. For me, this is the fun part. Once you have it drawn and you add the color in, the base color, adding the shadow and the highlights is what really pops that painting and just makes it look cool. So now I'm moving on to the highlights, and I'm using the soft airbrush tool, the big one, and once I get these lines down, again I will use the Gaussian blur and maybe lower the opacity a little bit. So, how are you guys liking Procreate? Let me know in the comments. I'm amazed how fun it is and how much it is. Like, if you're used to using Photoshop, you'll really get this app. You'll really understand it. For $10, I have to say it's probably the best deal I've ever had. I mean, you can do so much with this. And being able to draw on the iPad has been great. Now here I'm going back over the highlights with some harsher, sharper highlights. Just giving it that extra pop. You got to get that line perfect. Takes me a few tries sometimes. Now, I've only been using Procreate since I thought I edited that part out, but I've gone so far, I'm not going to worry about it. Anyway, like I was saying, I've only been using Procreate since December 25th. So not very long. I've only done a handful of drawings, but um, I did go to school for graphic art and web design and development, so I'm very familiar with Photoshop, Illustrator, Dreamweaver, all the Adobe products pretty much. And I used to own a Cintiq, the 13-inch one. That was a lot of fun. But it's been years, so anyway, let's move back to this artwork. Now I'm creating a strap for his sword. Did the base color, added some shadows, hit it with the Gaussian blur, lowered the opacity. Now I'm adding the highlights. See, it's a pattern. For detail, adding some of the stitching. There's the padding for the shoulder strap. Base color, highlight, Gaussian blur. Now the stitching. Messing around with color. Seeing what I can do to make it look better. I was using the liquify tool there on push to move that shoulder strap around a little bit, and that's kind of a neat tool. Minimizing some of my layers here, merging them together. Alright, now I'm creating the weapon of choice. I'm creating swords for this guy. It's what he likes. I don't know. He looks like a sword guy. You know, I think uh, I think he probably looks up to Deadpool. I don't know. I mean, who doesn't? Just cleaning up the edges there. Adding some outlines. Looked like I moved on too quickly. Forgot to add the outline to that. If you don't know, when you ink something, um, as long as that line is enclosed, the color, the circle at the top right, that color, you can put your Apple Pencil on that and drag it to the area that you want, and it will fill it in that color, just like the paint bucket in Photoshop. Tapping 3 fingers, well, first of all, tapping 2 fingers will erase your last step, and you can do that a few times. I'm not sure what the limit is, but let's say you delete something by tapping 2 fingers. Where you're like, oh wait, I want that back. You can use 3 fingers, tap 3 fingers, and it will put that back on there for you. Now I'm added some highlights to the shoulder strap. Use that airbrush and made a thick to thin line and blurred that and lowered the opacity. Did the same thing for the swords there. It gives it a nice highlight. Look, got my new glove on. And here I was just shaping the guy, and then I realized, holy crap, there's a white square. I don't know how I did that. There's a white square behind this guy that's not the canvas. And being new to Procreate, I had to figure out a way around this. And I think I took the long way. I tried erasing it. You can't see what you're erasing because it's white on white. And then I had to select it and erase and see if I'm doing it. And I saw it was working, so then I just went and selected everything and chose the biggest eraser. This was a pain in the butt. I mean, it didn't take very long to do, but I know there's a better way to do that. There we go. Got rid of most of those marks. So now I can put in the background for this guy. And I went with the red sun that you see in a lot of Kung Fu movie covers and any ninja art. You'll see the red sun behind the warrior. Now I'm just cleaning it up, getting rid of those white lines, placing it in the best position I feel. Now that is the splatter brush. You can find that under the spray can. But before I did that, I thought maybe I should add some shadow to this first. And I started trying to. It wasn't looking very good. But then I was like, wait, a shadow right behind them will look awesome. And use the Gaussian blur on the shadow, lower the opacity. Then I got rid of the shadow on the left there, so it's just showing on the right. That looked good. I had to erase the red on his teeth because it was showing through. I should have filled those teeth in white. Now I'm using that splatter brush that I needed a lighter orange so you could see it better, but didn't that give a nice texture? That's so cool looking. I can't wait to play around with that a little bit more. All right, let's add some detail to these sword handles. You got that sharp white line going on. This always gives it a nice effect. Now with this glove, I did notice it was harder to tap, especially 3 fingers. It doesn't recognize the covered finger for me. I think, which is not a big deal. There's workarounds, you use your thumb. But I just got so used to doing it that other way. But I think I'm gonna start using my other hand a little bit more to resize and tap. I don't know why I'm not doing that. I'm not sure if I even see other people doing that, but I think it would move things along a lot quicker. All right, we're trying some of the sharp highlight lines here on the pink body uniform. Got to get those lines perfect. Sometimes it takes a few tries. Look how much better those simple lines make the image. I love adding the sharp shadow line right below the heavy shadows sometimes. Okay, now here's another one of my favorite parts that I do towards the ending. The thin shadow lines, shadow inking lines. I don't know what you call those, but I like to do it. I like to use those. And it just gives it a little more character, a little more style. Just that on the sword looks so cool. Just makes it look so much better. All right, now creating a new layer, I'm going to outline this design. Now, I am planning on making stickers of these characters, so keep tuned for that. All right, now I'm going to size this up to fit the screen. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed that. I did. And if you haven't yet, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos like this. I'm having fun. I hope you guys are too. Thanks for watching. Bye.